Good morning. It is what is the time? Almost 9 UTC on Tuesday, the 10th of September. Going through Bitcoin from yesterday to today. Amazing continuations as we talked about yesterday with retail trying to short into the downside. Now they've missed the whole move down. They're going to try and short as we're potentially breaking back up. So strong regains yesterday. There's still some levels of test back below us, but overall local priority is up, which is nice. Really close to regaining some really key levels at 57 and 57.2K. So we'll go through everything. The local stuff, liquidity as we're looking at it now, not a whole lot. We've been tagging those upside shorts that we're building. There's another cluster starting to build above us. However, we do have a pretty decent amount of long liquidity down at 56K. So if there is some localized failure, there's a potential short back down into 56K again, just like a scalp to tag like 56K, 55.5. Breaking below 55K really starts to break some of that upside structure. So that's really not the plan here if we want that continuation to the upside. But for the time being, it looks pretty decent. Watch for that potential continuation move. Not a whole lot expected with the economic data coming out Wednesday, Thursday, so it's going to play much more of a factor, I think, with the volume and volatility. But it is Tuesday, so expect some more volatility just in general since it is Tuesday and all the markets are open. Looking at the local long short ratios, big one, obviously, we talked about yesterday, but people are stepping into short. So that long short ratio coming back down closer to below 2 to 1, even. So about 62%, which is nice. We want to see that, more of that, people trying to short in the low. There's a little bit of increase in longs here, people trying to buy the higher low. So again, like I said, even like there's a local scalp move back down if we start breaking some really local support, which we'll go through. So for the time being, that's good. We want to see that as the general trend. What we don't want to see is price breaking back down and grinding back down, in which case people would be incentivized to try to long it, and the long short ratio goes back high, and then all of a sudden we're breaking stuff back to the downside. Looking at the funding rates as well, obviously negative funding rates are influencing and incentivizing people to take longs, especially market makers or liquidity providers. And they're all across the board negative, except for Bybit's a bit of an outlier. But overall, that's very good. We want to see negative funding rates and incentivizes longs. The long order book was mostly wiped from last week, Friday and Saturday, which is fine. We want to see that kind of upside continuation, but there are some factors that would push us down to potentially have a retest lower, really shake people like late longs out potentially, but we'll go through it. Economic calendar to tomorrow, nothing today. Obviously, we got GDP, core CPI, GDP for the UK, but the big ones an hour before the market opens on Wednesday. That's the expectation that we're going to get some volatility. And on Thursday, big thing there, initial jobless claims and PPI, with the number one thing for the Eurozone, which is drastically expected lower interest rates. So really big, sharp pullback on interest rates, which is good. It needs to happen. And we'll expect that to have a general upside effect on the market, or at least for the time being. Looking over at trading light to get some data. So like we said yesterday, it's like, heavy shorts at 55, 56, watch them get pulled. They got pulled as we had a nice little short squeeze in the upside move. This is now, we've got some localized stuff and pretty organic looking long stepping in to potentially hold price. It looks pretty decent. Watch the shorts up here at 58 too. So those are gone. Longs are stacking below us. We've got some stuff stepping in as well. We don't want to really lose that low from about 55K, 54.8. That starts to break stuff if we start losing these lows. But if we do a pullback and then retest stuff to go higher, that's still the expectation. The longs below us are very solidly in place. There's a couple people pulling yesterday, but nothing major. It's still generally plunge protection is in. Also, open interest is going a bit flat as obviously we've been flat out since late last night, early this morning. But overall, we're seeing majority short liquidations with some longs liquidations getting, basically checked on the local price action. Looking at the TPO, looks fine. We've got some nice levels of retest. Again, if we break back down towards 55K, 55.5, that's all fine and dandy. We just don't want to lose that stuff. If we start losing that, we have to go back down to the lows where we run the risk of, swing failing the whole move, similar to what we saw last week where we had Monday looked okay. And then all of a sudden we start swing failing and breaking stuff back to the downside. We don't want to see that. The majority of the liquidity is already taken. Looking at the footprint as well, these are just showing imbalances in the order book. like I said, there's some pretty decent stuff if we go back towards 55K, even 55.5 to, grab this stuff. It's when we start sweeping below that all the way down potentially to 53.6-ish. Then we start running the risk of breaking that upside trend structure. But if we do it on a quick wick and then we close back above stuff, that's fine and dandy. Looking at the local stuff where everything's basically positioned, the delta is still very much strong bullish. We've got a lot of longs that would be out of position on a local loss of the low. So 56.5, that's the local loss that really starts to put these local longs out of position. So watch that factor. We'll also see that on TradingView. But yeah, 56.5, we lose that. We start putting all of the guys of the last 2 days effectively, or day and a half, or like half day, 18 hours or so, out of position to potentially come back down. Look at the little handy dandy ruler. We can expect that move to come back down to retest stuff in the mid 55 area. 1.4%, that's taking out 100Xs and 50X long positions. So looking at trading view for the general plan from yesterday was the step off continuation. If we saw the hold of the weekly open, it was strong, powerful continuation into the evening. Nice rip of that short liquidity to the upside. We were back at the major level to regain 57K. That previous weekly open, 57.2, that's what's holding us to the downside right now. Any regain of that should see a continuation move up towards above 59K. We've done all the tests. There's nothing left to test at 58. There's nothing left to test really until we get back towards 59K and potentially higher. I think the overall target's still looking pretty decent to the upside. Now, that being said, we talked about 56.5. That's the local failure. If you see that local failure, there's a potential scalp back towards the retest stuff. But again, invert the chart. What's the primary direction of travel currently? We've done this move where we had a really strong move, broke, swing failed, back down. What does that look like? Pretty similarly, especially, it looks pretty similar to what we saw on the upside move back 3 weeks ago. Basically, really strong upside drive, swing failed, close low, failure, continuation failure. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. So I'd like to see that kind of melt up. I think overall it looks pretty decent. We've got stuff to retest if we have the breakdown. But as soon as we flip 57K, we've got some higher time frame priority of the upside. These are your key levels. Keep an eye on them. The demand that you don't want to lose at any point, 53.6. If you can go all the way back down here, if we go back down and hold it, we should be seeing a really strong aggressive boot pump back up. It's losing this, it starts to break stuff, and we have to have that conversation about going to 51 and potentially new lows. So until then, it looks pretty decent. You're looking for longs, higher lows until you start losing, the local low that's in 50, call it 53.6, 54K on higher time frames. But in general, looks good. Watch that key zone right there. If you get a failure, until then, it's looking pretty decent. You're getting some local failure at the weekly open. That flip should be a continuation move since everything's tested. So that's it. Take it easy and catch you tomorrow.